Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to King Size Commercial Real Estate, your go-to channel for all the things related to commercial real estate market. Today, I'm excited to present a fresh and a captivating topic in the realm of commercial real estate. So, whether you are a seasoned investor with years of experience or someone taking their first step into commercial real estate landscape, understanding the intricacies of agreement for lease holds immense significance. The AFL or Agreement for Lease plays a very crucial role in ensuring a seamless and advantageous transactions for all the parties involved. So without any further delay, let's get right into the heart of today's discussion.
So what is agreement for lease? In commercial real estate, AFL often stands for agreement for lease. So an agreement for lease is a legally binding document that outlines the terms and conditions under which a tenant will lease a commercial property from a landlord. So it is like a preliminary step before the final lease agreement is signed, detailing important aspects such as rent, lease duration, conditions that must be fulfilled before the lease starts, and other crucial terms. So to summarize it, the agreement for lease helps both parties ensure they are on the same page before committing to a full lease agreement. So let's understand how the agreement for lease works. So we have split this into 6 different steps. So let's go step by step. So the first is intent to lease. The process begins when the landlord and the potential tenant express their interest in entering into the leasing agreement for a commercial property. So the tenant might have identified the property is suitable for their business needs, and the landlord, in the similar way, might find that the tenant's business is aligns with the property. So the next is terms and conditions. Both parties discuss and negotiate the terms and conditions that will govern the future lease agreement. This includes aspects such as rent amount, lease durations, provisions, responsibilities of who should take care of repairs and maintenance, and any conditions that might need to be met before the lease can start. So third is preparation phase. So once the key terms are agreed upon, an agreement for lease is drafted. So this is a detailed document that lays out all the negotiated terms and conditions. So it acts more of a blueprint for the final lease agreement. The fourth is binding promise. So the AFL is not a final lease agreement as we discussed earlier, but it does carry a legal weight. So by signing the AFL, both parties make a binding promise to enter the lease under the agreed upon terms and conditions. Once certain conditions are met. So these conditions are often related to obtaining necessary permits, completing construction and or improvements, or addressing any outstanding issues. So the fifth is final lease. After the conditions are specified in the AFLs are fulfilled, a final lease agreement is prepared. So this agreement is based on the terms in the AFL, but it is more comprehensive and detailed. It incorporates all the terms and conditions agreed upon and is often prepared by legal solicitors, legal professionals to ensure accuracy and legality. And the last step is implementation. So once the final lease agreement is signed by both the parties, the tenant gains legal right to occupy and use the commercial property. So according to the agreed upon, of course, according to the agreed upon terms, rent payment commence. The landlord provides possession to the property, and that's how it works. So very much clear. So let's talk about benefits of using AFL. So the first is clarity. So the AFL ensures that both parties have the clear understanding of the terms before committing to the final lease. Next is flexibility. So it allows the inclusion of special conditions that must be met before the lease is actually started. And the last is protection. So as we discussed earlier that AFL is a legally binding document. So the AFL provides a legal protection if either parties doesn't fulfill their commitments outlined in the agreement. So in essence, the agreement for lease serves as a bridge between the initial negotiation and the final lease agreement, providing a structured and a secure pathway for both the landlords and the tenant to enter into the commercial lease agreement. So now that we have understood how the agreement for lease works and what are the benefits of agreement for lease, it is very important to understand practical completion in context of agreement for lease. So again, we have split this into 5 different topics. So let's go step by step. So first is building works. So in context of agreement for lease, practical completion refers to the stage when the building works, including construction and necessary installations, has reached a point where the property is considered usable and sustainably complete. However, minor finishing works might remain. The property is ready for its intended purposes. So the next is practical completion. So practical completion signifies that a property has reached a stage where it's ready for occupancy and use according to the terms agreed in the agreement. So it indicates that the major construction work is done and the property is safe and habitable. So third is inspection. Before declaring practical completion in an AFL, thorough inspection are carried out to ensure that a property adheres to any specification and quality standards outlined in the agreement. If any defects or incomplete work are identified, necessary rectifications are made to meet the agreed upon conditions. Next is getting ready. So as the practical completion approaches, the property undergoes a phase of preparation. So what it means is this involves addressing any issues identified during inspection, completing pending tasks, and ensuring that the property is ready for handover to the tenant in accordance to the AFL terms. And the last one is transition to the lease. So this is the final stage. So practical completion is a crucial step as we understood in the transition from construction to the leasing phase. So in context of an AFL, if it often triggers the formal handover of the property to the tenant. So the property is expected to meet the conditions specified in the AFL, and the tenant can begin preparing to occupy the space for their business activities. So to summarize, practical completion in context of agreement for lease signifies the point at which the property is considered sustainably complete and ready for occupancy as outlined in the agreement. So it is a crucial milestone to say that facilitates the smooth transition from construction phase to practical utilization of commercial property by the tenant. So that's how you can understand what a practical completion is. So let's now understand what a force majeure clause in an agreement for lease does. So a force majeure clause in an agreement for lease is a provision that addresses uncontrollable events that could occur and that could delay the lease agreement due to circumstances beyond the control of either landlord or the tenant. So what this clause does is it outlines the rights and responsibilities of both parties in an event of such occurrences, allowing adjustments to the lease terms and to accommodate the impact of the unforeseen events. So what happens in case of a force majeure clause is in action to the rents and the payments? So this clause might specify how rents and other payments will be handled during the force majeure event, including potential adjustments or deferrals. So in short, to summarize the importance of force majeure clause, a force majeure clause provides both parties with a level of protection and flexibility in case of unforeseen events. And also it helps to prevent disputes, establishing clear guidance for how the lease will be managed if the circumstances beyond anyone's control impact its execution. Let's now understand penalties of delay clause in an AFL. So penalties of delay clause often incorporates a liquidated damage provision. So what it does is this clause addresses the situation where either the landlord or tenant fails to meet specified deadlines outlined in the lease agreement, which results into delay in the overall leasing process. So the liquidated damage clause establishes a predetermined compensation that the parties responsible for delay must pay to the other party. So just to avoid any confusion here, the clause outlines the circumstances that are considered a delay, such as missing a construction milestone, failing to complete the required preparations, or not fulfilling the specific obligations within stipulated timeframes. So these are some reasons where which can be considered as a delay. So if you may ask what are the importance of liquidated damage clause in an AFL, so I would say it's clarity. It helps to give you clarity and also predictability regarding the financial obligations, financial consequences of delay. It helps in dispute avoidance. helps to avoid your disputes by establishing a predetermined compensation amount. Also, it encourages you for timely activities. So it is encouraging the parties involved to meet their obligations and timelines. So just on a side note, the inclusion of a liquidated damages clause should be carefully considered and drafted with legal advice, just to ensure it is fair and reasonable, of course with applicable laws. So as we conclude our journey through the intricacies of agreement for lease, you might have understood by now that agreement for lease is like a building block for a successful property deal. Understanding AFL gives both landlord and tenant the power to handle commercial real estate with more confidence. So, thank you for being with us today. Until we meet next time, stay curious and keep learning. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.